welcome back to the Impact Show. Today, we are going to be making episode number 41.
Woo.
Maddie, that's so cool.
It is.
I don't know why, but the numbers climb and we get talk about it every time like it's good, but it's crazy that we've been this far and we keep digging. So, man, it's getting close to Christmas.
It is. Are y'all ready?
Yeah, I think so. Well,
Good for you.
Yeah. You're not ready.
We've got a few little things to get.
I got you. Yeah, that's good. Well, excellent. I'm excited about today. We missed last week. Well, we didn't miss last week. We just dropped something different, a little bit different.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a second. This week, we're going to talk about being temperate. So it's cool. I got a quick story to share. I love to share stories with our listeners. I was at church this morning and I had a fella come up and say, "Hey man, I've been listening to your podcast." And I was like, "Oh yeah?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's really great. It's really, really good." And he said, "I'm not a podcast guy, but the stuff you're doing is really great." And I was like, "Well, thank you." He said, "Is there anywhere I can watch it?" And I was like, "That's like the fifth person that's asked." And I'm like, "No, we haven't figured that out yet." I mean, we're just doing it, right? We don't have like staff or a bunch of money coming in or anything.
Me and you.
Yeah, it's just us. So we're like, yeah. With everything else we have going on, we're trying to get the video going. So y'all be patient. Maybe one day Maddie will work some magic up.
Yeah.
Or
we're trying today.
Yeah. So we're trying it today.
Yeah, we're trying it today.
Okay.
But we'll see. It's the uploading that takes forever and it just, but we'll see. We'll see if it works.
In 26, maybe we'll have somebody on staff that can just do it. We'll get right to it. Last week, we said something that was a little bit different. Maddie, you dropped my speech last week.
I did.
Do you want to talk about that at all? I mean, takeaways, or I think it was called, and by the way, 12 Strong. Mm-hmm. It's like my favorite movie ever, one of them.
And I had no idea.
And yeah, you tagged it 12 Strong, and that was a cool thing. So, but do you want to talk about that, takeaways?
Sure. Yeah. I think that my takeaway was mainly the impact that and the passion that you showed everyone in the room. So it was to celebrate your employees and thank them. And you also had, some clients in there and family, and that they don't get to see your passion every day,
Yeah.
My husband, Ruben, was like, "Man, I felt like he was like Kirby Smart talking to a football team, like getting them hyped." He was like, "I was hyped,"
Yeah.
So it was just, I don't know. I just think it was really cool that, I get to see you that way. Your employees get to see you that way, but our spouses and our families don't get to see you that way. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really cool that it's like, yeah, we're drinking the Jeremy Kool-Aid, and now you know why.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly excited and passionate about it, and I enjoyed that night. That night meant a lot to me. It was a culmination of everything kind of coming together from the last year, mm-hmm. And the vision that we have. It is extraordinary, and I'm excited about it. It was something I worked on that speech for like a month, but just getting in the room with a whole bunch of really special people to me, mm-hmm. and being able to share my heart like that, I enjoyed it.
Well, and the fact that you took the time to say something about each one of the people who is on your staff or your team. And then, I don't know, it just took a lot of heart to do it. And, I know I was thankful for it, and I'm sure the other employees were as well.
I hope so. I love my people, that's for sure. And that's why I do what I do every day. So obviously my family and my kids, but I get up every morning and do this for the people that were in that room that night,
right?
And so they deserve me. They deserve my time and all my energy that I could possibly give.
Well, we felt it.
So
certain.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. Anyway, if you want to go back and listen to it, you can. It was just a speech I gave at our Christmas party, kind of casting some vision for next year and where my heart is. Anyway, hopefully I can do those every year, and they can be better and better and better and better.
That was a lot of work.
Yeah, it was. Okay, so we're going to dive right in. So, temperate. What does that mean to you, Maddie?
I think I don't know if this is right, but like your temperament, like how you handle things generally. Do you want me to Google it?
That's what I was about to say.
Okay.
Let's Google it. Yeah, you're probably faster than me. Did you find it?
To exercise moderation, self-control, and restraint in your actions.
So keyword, self-control. So when you think about being temperate, I want you to think about self-control. Okay. Now, it is something that it's not, it's what we talk about this a lot. It is not nature. Your nature is not to be temperate. Okay. It's a trained thing. You have to learn it. And I'm going to talk about that here shortly. But basically, it is to practice self-control. Okay. And so, not just when you think about self-control, you may think, well, yeah, I can control myself. Well, no. So we're going to get into the details. But when I say self-control to practice temperance, you're also going to control your not. Okay. So when I say self-control, what do you think about?
It just depends on the situation.
Interesting. So your desires, emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can control oneself throughout the day, all the time, but your habits, your emotions, and your desires is really what we're talking about when we're talking about being temperate. Basically, not letting anything rule you, right? So how often do you think about your ability to lead yourself? In other words, how often do you think to yourself, and you may not, and it's okay, but like, I need to manage myself. Like, because it's also self-awareness, right? But being able to be temperate is really when you have a really keen sense of self-awareness and you back up and understand. We always talk about 3,000 feet, but you back up to understand that you should not pleasure yourself. You should not overeat. You should not, the things that you want to have self-control in areas, not necessarily discipline, but self-control. So basically, being able to enjoy something without being owned by it.
Right.
Okay. Being able to choose rather than just get more. Right. So, in other words, we always talk about responding rather than reacting. Well, this is one of those situations too, where being temperate allows you to respond rather than react.
Okay.
And you choose the way you respond. That's being temperate. So being temperate is you and I get into, which will never happen, but we get into a verbal debate and we're arguing about something. And I'm choosing how I'm responding to you. Literally.
Instead of just letting
letting my emotion just run.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm choosing how I'm responding and I'm articulating it as so. And that is what I call a superpower. Okay.
That is.
And that is part of being temperate. Okay. So the takeaway right off the rip, I want you to understand that being temperate is a superpower. It's very important. And someone will know when you're using it. And you'll notice when you use it,
you feel better.
Well, you feel a whole lot better because you're in control. You're also the person that you're using it on will recognize it, and they react differently.
Yeah.
So when and I know this because my wife and I do it sometimes. We get into a spin out, and if I use temperance, if I'm temperate, then she responds differently.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's 100% correct. All the time, every time. If we're in a spar and I'm using temperance, like fleshing it out, she will begin to respond differently. And when I get emotional, she gets emotional.
Yeah.
Right? And so,
yeah.
Anyway, it's cool stuff. But a temperate person can enjoy things, but they don't need them in excess.
Can I go back to the responding?
Yes.
So today in church, Pastor Danny talked about how Jesus was there was a woman who had committed adultery, and all the men were saying, we have to stone her and all this. And Jesus like knelt down and like started drawing in the sand. And then he responded with, he who has not sinned can throw the first stone. And so and then he like went back down, and I'm like, in church this morning, I was like, man, it's like the 3,000 feet above, but also it's like, just take a little step back.
That's right.
Like, and
take a step back,
and then you can respond. It doesn't have to be immediately off the rip.
Right. It's you typically do more damage when you respond like that, or when you react like that.
Yeah.
When you respond, it's usually a positive thing.
Yeah.
And so,
sorry, didn't mean to.
No, that's great. That's what we're doing. But temperance is finding the right amount at the right time for the right reasons. Okay. And, some might say, well, you don't care, right? So you find yourself being temperate, but then your spouse or your partner or someone might say, it's just because you don't care. No, that's not true. It's not apathy or neglect. It's just that, and it's also not, indulgence, right? So you're the in between. You're in the middle ground, which is to be temperate is to be able to maintain the middle ground. So when you're driving down the road, you got the mayonnaise and the mustard, so they say, and you want to stay in the middle. And it's the same in your leadership as a leader, and in relationship or whatever. You want to stay in the middle. Okay, you want to continue to maintain your influence. And it's kind of like we talked about. Well, I don't remember which episode it was where we talked about the airplane. You have wings and you're flying, but if your ego gets too big, your wing falls off and the plane don't fly right. And you got to be humble,
right?
And it was a balance. We talked about that. But anyway, so emotional temperance, being temperate emotionally, right? That's really what we're kind of talking about. So you can feel anger without being cruel. Right. So you can feel desire without being obsessive. You can feel sadness without crying. You can feel joy without being overzealous, but it's like you don't, when you're temperate, you're managing yourself in such a way that you want to maintain position. Okay. You don't want to be too hot or too cold in this regard. It's basically self-control. So your emotions don't control you, okay, at all. You govern them, right? So you are in charge of yourself. You basically, the pause that we talked about, that's really like probably 60% of it. Being able to pause.
Yeah.
And manage how you respond, how you react. And here's the question that you ask yourself about different things, but emotionally, we're talking about emotions here, right?
Right.
So, because you want to be, when you're being temperate and you're having self-control, you're not supposed to seek pleasure, right? Well, I mean, we're supposed to seek to serve. And so then we can get into that later. But basically, one of the questions you can ask is, number one, is this serving me or someone else? And what is the value, right? So find the value in what you're dealing with. Basically, temperance grows through awareness, being aware of it, being aware that you're supposed to look for it. And so temperance is this, and we talk about, it's the skill of choosing what is enough. Being temperate, it basically shapes how someone leads and why people trust them, because a temperate leader is steadier, more fair when they need to be, and more credible, right? All the time, if they're temperate. It creates trust. Okay. And so temperate leaders are typically predictable and the way they respond or react. They don't overreact to bad news. Really, a temperate leader will not overreact typically, and that's how they build their trust. Part of the way, a temperate leader makes better decisions under pressure, and we're talking about it in the practice of being temperance. But leadership amplifies a lot of things, and a temperance in a leader helps them pause before they react, resist short-term wins that cause long-term damage, and then balance everything out so that it's almost like you're on an equilibrium. Okay. And so anyway, being temperate is super important. Now, it's also could be considered restraint, right? So being able to restrain yourself would be, you could classify that as temperance as well. And we can get into the flesh if we wanted to today, but we probably won't. But being able to tell yourself no when you don't need to do that would be, restraint. And that's
also listening to yourself. It's like a full-blown conversation with yourself. You can tell yourself no.
Oh yeah.
Like don't shoot it off. Don't shoot off that email. Don't yell back at your spouse, whatever it is. And then it's the next part of it where you have to, in fact, not do or do what you're saying,
Right. At the end of the day, being temperate it's like sustained leadership. Okay. Because you can give someone can be leading. If they're not temperate, again, it's one of those things. This one, you can lead without being temperate. But when you're temperate, your leadership capacity just expands like tenfold because you're in control. And the Bible talks about it a lot, being in control. Okay, so a temperate leader does a couple things to set the temperature. And then we're going to talk about 4 things real quick. So a temperate leader can navigate a disagreement amongst followers or people. And they do a really good job. This is another thing that a temperate leader does. And I may get to this in a minute, but I'm going to get to it now. A temperate leader can take a situation and they make it about the problem and not the people. A temperate leader will find common ground for the people and oftentimes spin it so that the problem is it's not the people ever. And a temperate leader acknowledges that. When I say the problem's not the people, it's not ever the problem. And somebody's sitting there saying, well, yeah, it is, man. Yeah, it is. The people are the problem. No, the problem is that's the way you see it.
Right.
The truth is the problem is always, yes, it is inside of people, but it's sin, right? It's anyway, we'll have Bible study here in a minute. But basically, when you say the problem is the people, that's the problem. You have to acknowledge that the problem is in its very nature, it's inside people, but it's not the person. God didn't make us. He made us in his image. And so you don't want people to think they're the problem because that creates all kinds of problems inside of them, right? And then that comes out later. So you take it and you help someone acknowledge, yes, the problem is there, but it's not them, right? So anyway, that's a whole nother peculiar thing. We're getting off topic. So temperance, what else it does? It limits ego. It resists self-gratification. It keeps the leader accountable to values rather than impulses. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's a checkmate for the leader. So with temperance, it requires strength, right? So, and I'm sitting here talking about the flesh, but you have to overcome that. And that's why when we talk about being temperate, you think, man, that's an emotional thing. That's a whatever. The strength that it requires to be temperate is monumental. The strength to wait, the strength to say enough is enough, the strength to listen, right? It's hard.
Without talking.
It's so difficult. Danny talked about that at church too, didn't he, this morning? He said something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Listen more, right?
Yeah.
The strength to act. Like all these things, they require strength. Temperance, that's basically your temperance. All those things. So leadership, temperance and leadership is simply this: is stewardship and being able to maintain restraint, balance, and govern yourself. That's what temperance is. There's a couple of examples that I looked up. George Washington was said to be temperate. And you say, why? Well, so I think that, and you can read all the history you want. But he voluntarily stepped down from power a couple times, where he balanced being firm and being humble. And he had really good self-awareness. George Washington did. Abraham Lincoln, the same thing. He controlled his personal bitterness despite constant attacks. Abraham Lincoln was attacked by all kinds of people for a long time. And he was in one of the worst positions that you could possibly be in at the time. That was during the slavery and all that. And of course, look, you can go back and study it. Abraham Lincoln was one of the greatest leaders that I think ever lived, based on several different reasons. But he was attacked, and he didn't ever seek vengeance for anybody. And
he easily could have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But he looked for reconciliation, instead of punishment, after all the stuff he had been through. And what do you say? Malice toward none,
right?
No matter what. So it's kind of like Jesus. I mean, Jesus said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And I tell you that many, many great leaders steal that. That's a common attribute of a good leader, of a great leader, is that, like I'm saying earlier, and this is temperance, being able to understand that the person's not the problem.
Right.
Your husband is not the problem. Your wife is not the problem. Your kids are not the problem. It's the sin that lives in them. And that, looking at that from that perspective, can revolutionize your life completely. Because you have to understand that your wife or your husband is not the reason that you fight or you argue or you don't get along or whatever. Or maybe some of y'all don't, but I do. Me and Ashley get down. I mean, depends on the time of the month. I'm just kidding.
Oh, Lord.
I'm just kidding. But I mean, really, I have to see it that it's not her, right? It's the sin that lives in her.
Yep.
And my kids, same thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that it's interesting for me thinking about my kids.
Yeah.
But I've done a lot better just not flying off the rip, with my kids, or I tried not to. But, then it's like the 7th time that I've said something, I'm like,
I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. Like, it's, no, I think that's I never realized how, also temperate is like, you said earlier, it builds trust. And I'm like, golly, I think about people who leaders in my life, I'm like, you don't realize that they do
these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now it's kind of like eye-opening.
Yeah, it comes to the top. So temperate leaders don't have to prove strength either.
What do you mean?
So they don't have to prove themselves. That's the other thing that I try to tell people all the time. A temperate leader lets restraint speak for itself. So in other words, you spend your life trying to prove yourself. You do. We all do.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got to prove that I can do this. I got to prove that I can do that. And what happens is when you begin to acknowledge that that's what you're doing, you create a self-awareness that essentially you don't really have to prove yourself to anyone. You're already good enough. Okay. You just have to build the skills to illuminate that or whatever.
Yeah,
but
that's interesting.
At the end of the day, understanding that it's not, when I say you feel the need to prove yourself, okay, that is the problem. And you actually in some cases do need to prove yourself. But when you feel the need to, that's the problem.
So temperate is a mandate that people can see. But then also there's an underlying thing that it's a battle in your mind too.
The war inside of you.
Because like someone may not know that I feel like I have to prove myself.
Right.
You know, it's just me in my own head that I'm just
correct.
Like spinning.
Yes. And so it's going on in your head. And one of the biggest problems is when you can't manage it. And then it does come out.
Right. Yeah.
On everybody else at some level. And in your leadership, it hurts you.
Yeah.
So being able to maintain your composure and self-control. I mean, look, the Bible says it over and over and over again. I mean, it's all throughout the scripture.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the closest one to self-control.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's in the Bible.
I was going to say, like, what other mandate? It's just interesting. I would love to see. We should do an episode where we like classify all the mandates into different categories or something. Cause like humility, I feel like that and temperate are obviously they all go hand in hand, but like humility, people like, you can see that, like, I mean, people see that you're humble.
Oh yeah.
With this, they can see that you're temperate, but they also don't see what's in your mind. Where humble, you're either humble or you're not. There's no really like fighting about it, right? I mean, well, it's not just like a self.
I think that all of them are a fight because they're not natural. Humans are built to survive. And some of these traits, most of these traits have to be practiced and reps. You have to have reps. Mm-hmm. Practice.
Yeah.
So, but I know what you're trying to say. And, you could categorize them and work on them. The cool thing about these mandates is there's only 20 of them. We've been talking about it for a whole year.
Yeah.
We still haven't finished. Okay. And once you get done talking about them, you could go back and talk about them again.
Right. We've said that. Like new things would come up, new ideas, new examples,
But it's all the same stuff. And all these mandates really hit on a lot of it hits on the same stuff over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But it all fleshes out different. And it essentially, when we talk about cultivating temperance, it's suppressing yourself. It's making yourself choose.
Yeah.
And think about it as a muscle.
Well, you just said you have to do reps, and I'm like over here thinking, golly, there's 20 of them. How do you practice 20 mandates?
Right.
I mean, obviously it gets easier and easier, just like working out or anything. But
so you start with awareness. Again, being temperate, it begins with noticing, right? Being challenging yourself to notice when you need to be temperate. And basically build the pause, right? That's the main thing.
You just said challenging yourself to
make the choice. To be temperate. That would be the first thing I would do. The second thing you do is you build that pause. And I told somebody the other day, 3 to 4 seconds between the time that someone says something and your response, which is very difficult to do.
It is very difficult.
But if you can do it, people notice it. Like immediately.
Yeah.
I'm talking about you go home tonight and you have a conversation with Ruben and you pause before responding to him and watch what he does.
So you haven't asked me this, but the first person that came to mind was Reuben, who was temperate. Like,
really?
the man is, I like to say, like, he is very patient, but the patience quality comes off because he steps back and he doesn't respond.
Wow.
And he is very, okay, now I'm going to speak. Like,
very cool.
That is 100. So me pausing for 3 or 4 seconds in between, like, sometimes I look at him and I'm like, hurry, like, what? Hurry up.
Say something.
Yeah. Why are you, and so now I'm like, wow, I can tell who's the temperate one in our relationship because it's not me.
Yeah. So another thing you can do, this is powerful. So when you begin to feel an emotion, you name it.
Give an example.
So you're starting to get angry. You acknowledge it that you feel angry.
Oh, okay. I was like, you name it, like,
you name it.
Tina.
So when you feel anger, name it. In other words, okay, I feel angry right now.
Got it.
Right? Or I feel impatient right now. Or I feel whatever the emotion that you're feeling, you want to name that emotion, call it out.
Like, say it to someone.
Yeah. Or yourself. So in other words, what you're going to begin to do is process your emotions differently. Mm-hmm. And, let's just say that you have a temptation. I don't know what kind of temptations you deal with. We won't get into all that today, but let's say you have a temptation and then you're acknowledging that I feel tempted right now for whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that basically puts you on offense. In other words, you're acknowledging it, you see it, and now you're going on offense to diminish it.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to write these down. We don't have time to read them today, but this is going to be some homework for our listeners. I want you to go and read Proverbs 25. That's chapter 25, verse 28. And you'll notice self-control is in there. Also, I want you to read Galatians chapter 5, 22 through 24. That is where we talk about the fruit of the Spirit. Self-control is one of those. And then I want you to read 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 5 through 9. And so if you read those scriptures following this episode, let God speak to you about, the self-control that being temperate talks about. And, I appreciate you telling the story earlier about Jesus in the sand, because Jesus was temperate, and that's where this attribute came from. Mm-hmm. And most of these mandates all came from a study that I did years ago on the life of Christ, and they were found in him. Right. So, and we're called to be like him. So that's where it came from. Cool.
That's the first time I've ever quoted the Bible.
That was pretty good, actually. Very good. You learned it this morning too.
Yep.
It's great.
Stuck with me.
Yep. Excellent. So that's it. Temperate. And again, it may sound like, oh, that's not a big deal on the beginning, but now that you've gone through the lesson, it's like, no, it's a huge deal. It's self-control. And the Bible talks a lot about self-control. Mm-hmm. It's so important.
Are we signing off?
Yeah.
Are you landing?
Ready? Yeah. Let's land the plane.
The temperate plane.
Temperate plane. All right. Thank y'all for coming. We'll see you next week.